I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity, and we're going through the white paper library. And today's lesson is going to be on the vision, discovering my life vision. But the story behind this, maybe of all the white papers, this story started 52 years ago when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was at Camp Fairwood in Wisconsin. And my dad, was a pastor, so I grew up as a pastor's kid, very conservative Baptist. I jokingly say that, I was taught very strongly God doesn't speak to you in a vision or audibly. So if God had, I wouldn't have believed him. I was talking to an Amish guy this last week. He said, I disagree with the Baptist. And I said, I do too. But anyways, that's where I was, you know, and, uh, And the first words out of God's mouth to me that spoke to my soul, not audibly, but just, he said, Mark, you're an average to below average kid. And I knew that, at the age of 8, 9, whatever it was 8 or 9. Um, I knew that. And then God went ahead and said, Mark, if you're a good steward with what I give you, you will impact the entire world. And so my life vision is to touch every single person in the world, one person at a time, make a huge difference in every aspect of their life in a really fun and exciting way. And yep, that's currently 8+ billion people. I've known that for 52 years. And so that was, discovering my life vision. I thought, growing up and even into my 20s and 30s, I thought God had that conversation with everybody, right? You're an 8-year-old. Like, what do you do? I don't know. Why would he talk to me? Like, doesn't everybody have that conversation with God? And the first part would be really good because it eliminates ego. It just does. When your creator tells you, when you're 8 or 9, when your creator tells you, hey, you're you're average or below average. I think that's just God being nice to me. Mark, you're really below average, but I'll give you're average or below average. Like when your creator tells you that when you're 8, 9 years old, I would think that you couldn't have ego, you couldn't have pride. It's just not there. It's like, but I don't know, whatever. And so I remember Melissa, my daughter, probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago, it was before she got married. And she was at an event. She was at an event, and Steve Casey, or she went up to speak, and I said about life vision, and I said, "Do you want to, or maybe talk about that something?" She was going to get up and speak. I said, "Hey, honey, so she's I don't know, 23, 24 years old, and she had done a lot of public speaking, so she was very proficient at it and everything." And I said, "Hey, do you need me to come up with you?" And she's like, "No, Dad, I got this." I'm like, "Okay." So she gets up there and she talks a little while. And then Steve Casey says, "What's your life vision?" And she's like, "I don't know what my life vision is." And he's like, and there are, I don't know, 30, 40 people in the room. And he says, "How can you be Mark Boersma's daughter and not know your life vision?" And she's like, "Hey, Dad, can you come up and help me?" I'm like, "Sure." So I go up there and I mean, the video's out there somewhere. It is one of the proudest moments I've ever had with my daughter, with Melissa. I mean, I brings tears to my eye. We were talking about the journey she went through and the choices she made as in her late teens, early 20s. And she was sharing how they were really bad choices. And somebody from the audience said, well, it's okay. It's okay because, that's made you who you are today. And she's like, it's really not okay that I made those choices because I knew better. So as a good Baptist, they would pound nails in a board and they'd say the nails are sin. You can pull them out, but they're still scars. That goes all the way back into there's still scars. And so, it doesn't define her. Her past does not define her future. It took 30 years for me to figure out, how to discover one's life vision. So God gave it to me at the gift of, 8 or 9. So he gave me that gift at the age of 8 or 9. Um, but it took 30 years for me to figure out. Again, you can tell Mark's not the sharpest tool in the tool shed. Like draw a circle, list everything passionate. That took you 30 years to figure out. It did. Now we're in this section right now. We're going right into is life vision, passions, leverage, and a whole lot more. So when you look at, the level phase 1, it's thinking differently. These are basic concepts that are pretty significant, pretty profound. And then we move into, phase 2, the income machine, which are, how do you make money? That's important. And you can see this is kind of an evolution of my life where now I'm moving into significance. And so all of these white papers were written around the same time. So it's talking, about seeing and being and dimensional living and the next dimension and unlimited bandwidth and leverage. Like there's some pretty cool stuff in this section. But the life vision, like there's something I just discovered just in the last few months, it's identity. I don't have something identity. I mean, we do through the podcast for young men. Go to podcast for young men, and there's a whole section on identity. And your identity, like, can you really discover your life vision without understanding your identity, who you are and whose you are? Like if somebody has a worldview that they they evolved from a single cell to something and they used to be this, if you have that worldview, that's probably not going to work out. Like I'm just like everybody else and I'm not special. And when you have a worldview that there's a creator and the creator created me, created every single person on the planet, whether you believe in the creator or not, that doesn't matter from a perspective. It doesn't change the fact. And so to me, my life vision has helped me get through some pretty rough times in life. It's helped me to heal really, really fast from some really, really hard things. Because it supersedes even my marriage of 40 years. It supersedes all 7 of my children or 10 of my grandchildren. My life is bigger than my marriage. It's bigger than my family. It's bigger than my businesses. It's bigger than life. Like it's who I was created to be. And that's really what life vision, I think, is. It's like, who are you created to be? And then be that creation, work towards that. Cheryl, what were your thoughts on the white paper?
I like the idea of journaling, like writing stuff down and keeping a journal. What it
I,
said on that, and then maybe going back,
yeah,
rereading it, or I don't know.
yeah. The Eighth Habit by Stephen Covey, that was really interesting. And then the Dream Giver, short book, tiny book, man, that thing was cool. And then the Thomas Jefferson education and the 10 things there. Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
It's cool. Like Sarah, I think she was 5 years old when she did this out. I love that Elaine on the 30-day challenge saw about the kids, her children, and helping them discover their life vision. So Sarah, she's 5 years old and she writes all the things she's passionate about. And I'm jealous of her. Like her life vision is I'm here to play and learn. Ooh, I want to have that life vision. Like that's a cool, I mean, that's a really cool life vision. So imagine your children, when they're older and they look back on this and they see how much they've changed or grown or whatever. And I started journaling when I was 40, and I do all my journaling. You see my journaling. I don't know that we might put that in the link somewhere. We'll see. But you see all the journaling I do, and I've had people that look at my journals and say, "Are you Leonardo da Vinci? Like that's crazy. Your journals are insane." You guys could, if you wanted to, you could bug me to bring one of my journals to each month in the coffee connection and just glance through it. They're really intriguing. And
Can you bring one today?
uh yes. You want a most recent one or you want an older one?
I want an older
Say
one.
both. Yeah, say both. Okay, I'll do both. So I will seek to remember that. But I do all my journaling in church on Sunday morning. That's almost always where I do journaling. Almost always. It's for 30 minutes. It's during the message. It's the coolest thing in the world. It's amazing. Like when you see how much I journal and you're like, how do you do that only 30 minutes when you only have 30 minutes? It's really neat. Um, this one's cool, the Life Balance Wheel. This is Tom Kuntz. So this is a really neat tool. The Life GPS, that tool is actually in there. Um, Elaine, questions or thoughts you have on this white paper?
No questions, but I want to read those two books. You've intrigued me by what you've written. And I want to read especially The Eighth Habit first, but also The Dream Giver. And I was trying to figure out what my big dream was when I was a child, and I for the life of me can't remember what I, wanted to pursue. I know the ideas people put in my head, and those were waitressing, but my initial um, gut didn't want to waitress.
Okay. So it's not so much what you want to do as a child, it's why you want to do what you want to do. It's not the what, it's the why. What's causing you to want to do what you wanted to do?
But I
The
think maybe it was kids
okay. Anything
because
specific?
I've always been drawn to children, even as a young girl.
Yeah,
I was the one that always took care of a baby that did nothing but cry or anything like that because I could draw a lot of stuff from them.
yeah,
So maybe that.
yeah. And there's a fish at the bottom of the ocean. And I sometimes just laugh at myself. Like, how do you know this stuff, Mark? It's just weird. Like, it's weird on what I know. But there's a fish at the bottom of the ocean, and it never comes up for air. It's down there, and it's because it's dark, it can't see. But supposedly this fish can, eat atomic waste and it's fine. So you may have that gift, Elaine, where pain, most of the time, pain and hurt and everything, it drags most human beings down. They don't want to be around pain and hurt and stuff. But you may have a gift like I do. I mean, it might be our personalities that have that gift where it doesn't wear us down. It actually gives us energy. Other people's pain doesn't take energy from us, it gives energy. The eighth habit you'll enjoy a lot. The Dream Giver, I'm guessing you could give that to your children. It's a very short, easy read, and it is and I think the eighth habit probably is a little, more in depth. Like that's going to have a little more meat, a little deeper. But the Dream Giver, I don't know. At one point, I think I bought 10 of those books and I gave them out to people. I mean, it's just both of those are very powerful books. Anything else, Elaine, that you have?
I just I got the kids to do the Passion Circle once, but they just did it because, well, they were irritated. So I'd like to be able to get it, like convey it in a way that um makes them realize that I'm actually interested in what they really are passionate about.
So, you want a tip?
Sure.
So you're their mom, and so your interest in them doesn't count. I don't know why that is, Elaine. It just is weird to me. But I remember when my teenage girls they became women and they were dressed, really attractive. Not bad attractive, just like, whoa, these are beautiful women. And I'd say, whoa, these are beautiful women. They're like, Dad, I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm a man. I can see you're a beautiful woman. So it wasn't bad. It was just, you're attractive. And they're like, it doesn't count. And I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't count? You're my dad. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all to me. And so what you can do is if you go ahead and with your boys, find, teenagers or young adult girls and, say you want to give it to Marla or Mary Jo for your boys. So Marla or Mary Jo, they were asking to see, your live vision. And for the girls, you find boys and you say Luke or, Ben or Kenny. They wanted to see your live vision. Now that's pretty intense, but little girls, it's crazy. Like Elaine, she was what, 2 years old? And Kenny walked in the house and she started flirting and goofing around and dancing. She's two. But so, it's not bad. And so getting somebody other than yourself to go ahead and review over it and his interest, they will probably take it more. So as a parent, you realize, at least I did, my kids aren't going to listen to me. They're just not. By and large, it seems like that. So what I did is I was very strategic in seeking to find, and it's often kids at younger ages, it's often 3 to 7 years older, that I thought were good influences, and I tried to bring them into my children's life to speak truth into their life, to try to help them. Tom calls it the man with the briefcase from 100 yards away. And so, he led 140,000 agents in 70 different countries, largest real estate franchise in the world. You'd think that all of his agents would respect him, like, hello, he's the president, but they didn't. So I said, really? He's like, yeah. I said, what'd you do? He said, I hired a consultant, an outside person to come in and tell everybody, what needed to be done. And they'd listen to a stranger, but they won't listen to somebody close. So the key is find key strangers in your life that for your kids, and that will help them more. And then if you take one of them, whichever one you think is the best, and bring them to a coffee connection. And then they share their life vision, and then multiple people around them, other adults, other younger adults, older adults, go, wow, that's really cool. Like you saw it with me, with Sarah. That was years ago. But it's just cool. And so when they go ahead and see they're getting attention for what their passions are, they start getting attention for that. Like that's really cool. And then that will start to feed them. That will start to awaken them. And then once they get awakened and then they can start doing it to their friends. It's just like the crazy dancing man video. It's like one person does it and they're just crazy until a second person comes on and then they do it. And then before you know it, everybody's doing it because they don't want to be left out. Same principle.
Okay.
Rosanna, Mary Jo, or Tim, anything any of you have on as it relates to life vision?
Well, I've been doing the 30-day challenge, and we talked about the life vision in the 30-day challenge also. And I think just like in our marriage, we have different seasons. And I think going back and revisiting what I had for my life vision and seeing if things have changed in my season of life. So
Nice. I remember Alan Stein. He said, you've discovered your life vision when it pursues you relentlessly. You hate it. You run from it. You don't want to be around it, but you can't escape it. Jeff Ristine, he said to me, he worked for Ben Campen and Merritt, very wealthy individual, very, very wealthy. And so Jeff Ristine was in our driveway. I was probably mid-30s, I'm guessing. He was younger, a little younger than me, 5 or 10 years younger. We were talking in our driveway, and he said, Mark, I've never met anybody that's so clear on their life vision, why, God's put them on this planet. He says, I wish I was like that. And I said, well, Jeff, let me share something with you. One is I'm not sure if God's done that to everybody. It makes sense to me. Like, I don't know why God would do it to some and not others, but maybe, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not God. So one is, be careful what you pray. Or one is, I don't know if God does that to everybody. Two, I said, be careful what you pray for. It sounds sexy. I mean, it really does. It's like, oh, you got this cool life vision, and oh, it's so big, and it's this and this. It's not cool. It's not sexy. It's a pain in the tush. It's like, some days I just wish I was normal. Some days just a normal husband, a normal father, a normal grandfather, a normal human being where I could just be normal. So that's what I wonder if people actually know that. If people actually subconsciously don't want to discover their life vision because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of being held to account. They're afraid of, like, well, what if God wants something really important of me? I don't know. Look at the parable of the talents. Like the one who buried the talents, like that's the passions. Your talents are your passions. Your passions are your talents. So the one who buried the talents, it's like that didn't go so well for them. I mean, you look at that, it wasn't just taking the one talent, giving it to the 10, like wiping out everything you have. But he literally, you look at the original language, it's literally casting him into the lake of fire, into hell. You never hear that in a church. Like if you're not a good steward, like I was talking to very successful Amish businessman last week for 2 hours, actually, first time we talked. And we were talking about that. And it's like you don't hear that in churches. You don't hear that. Like, and so I asked him, I said, can a Christian be lazy? He's like, that is a really good question. So can a true Christian be lazy? I don't know if they can. Because like you're created to do something. If you're not doing what you were created to do, like you don't hear any Christian songs about that. You don't hear that. It's mercy and grace and everything's okay and it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, da 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 da. And it's like, but that's not what the parable of the talents was saying. It's saying you don't use your talents well, you go to hell. I mean, honestly, that's just seems like that's what it's saying. Well, that puts a whole different spin on it. So people want to have significant lives. They want to do significant things, but they don't want to work significantly. They don't want to make significant sacrifices, and they don't want to go ahead and take significant risk. Harry, Joe, or Tim, anything you guys, either of you have as it relates to life vision? Okay. So hopefully, this has been helpful to you. This connects into, everything else. It's like I have the blessings, the benefit of spending years thinking about these things and then writing about them, right? So I take literally thousands of hours thinking about things and then hundreds of hours writing about them. And so, it's not like you can't stay on one for decades. I mean, you could, but it's like how do you incorporate all of these things together? And so the next one is seeing and being. Man, that was a good season of life to be able to see things I couldn't see before. And how do I be what I was created to be? So always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.